come back. You're gonna bring us. You're gonna do the intro from the coffee break, so we can have that edited in.
So welcome back from the coffee break. I'm still here with Pat and Steven, and I got some coffee today, actually, surprisingly enough.
I think we all do.
You're having water, Jeremy. It's just water. It's in a coffee mug, though.
We'll count that.
Good juke.
I drank the coffee already. That's gone. It's going to be cold by now. Jeremy makes me show up like a half hour early. That's like an eternity for a mug of coffee. That's
I always drink my coffee. It's usually iced. If I get it, it's iced. And if it's not iced, then I like it to be like warm. I didn't like grow up drinking coffee, so I feel like I'm just like a coffee, like kind of a coffee noob at this point. So I'm not like, I'm not into burning my tongue and stuff. You know, some people are, I guess.
I kind of like coffee that's kind of cold. I know it sounds weird, but like if you have coffee, it's hot and it just sits in a mug for a while and it's like not even room temperature.
No, I
don't mind that. Like it's actually
maybe it's a mechanical
terrible.
engineering thing because I agree with you on that. But listen, you know, being the hard-hitting podcast we are, and we even take.
We have a hard-hitting question. We have one hard-hitting
from
question.
the same person.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Is it two? That's two questions?
Is it two? Well.
Oh, I think that's one question because I don't understand. I don't know that I understand. I don't need to read it word for word, but I can tell you, my friend who designs our little PCBs with the LEDs on them. He's in Discord. His handle is "See You Dying," like "See You See Me" from the '90s. See you dying, and he wants to know what your machine's CPH is. Chips per hour?
Chips per hour. Yeah, that's a great question, and that is like a huge metric for these machines.
And it's a hard-hitting question because this is, I don't know, it's important.
I should have this off the top of my head. I think it's a few thousand, and I'm not entirely sure because we recently updated a lot of config settings. So it actually goes quite a lot faster now. We shifted to the Trinamic stepper motor drivers, and they fly. They're so great. So we have like when we have a prototyping machine that we're running like all of our test configs on. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I can do a little math and tell you what it is because we're still dealing with like upgrading the configs and pushing it to its limit. But it can do a few thousand, I think. I have other metrics of like how fast can it do a panel with certain number of components and stuff that I can provide you guys, but I don't have it off the top of my head, and I really should.
That's okay, but it's reasonably quick. It sounds like
it's definitely a huge improvement, and there's room for tuning it so it goes even faster as well, for sure. But it's not going to be as fast as a $30,000 machine. You know, it's going to get you 85% of the way there at a tenth of the cost, less than a tenth of the cost.
So I should just buy two of these, is what you're telling me. So then I'll be.
That's what we did. We have three sitting in the other room, and they're just running
there.
Right.
For 20% of the cost. I'm ready.
Right.
I have a question that Jeremy made me think of this because he's talking about PCBs, and his MacroPad PCB has components on the top and the bottom. Are you going to be able to refeed a board through that has, like, when you eventually get to the automatic feeding, are you prepared to not bump those components on the way into the...
Yeah. So what we do is we have a prototype of a conveyor belt, which will bring it through. There's a really cheeky thing you can do where you can use two different temperature solder pastes. So the trick is you get a very high temperature solder paste and you do it for one side of the board. You place all your parts, you reflow it, and then you flip it over and you put it back through the conveyor belt and you do the bottom side, and then you only reflow it at the lower temperature. So all the stuff on the bottom doesn't get hot enough to have all the parts fall off. And you can do SMT for both sides. You have to panelize it with rails so that it can be carried along through the conveyor belt, but that's easy. If you're panelizing it, which you definitely will be anyway if you're using this machine, you can totally do it. So it's possible for sure.
That's a really clever trick.
Jeremy, you have so few components on the bottom anyway. You could manually do half of them with the.
Well, I mean, I don't have any. I guess basically I've got all the LEDs on the bottom. Basically, all the surface mount stuff right now is on the bottom. But it would be nice if I could put these two. I've got two buttons that have to be on the top. So if I could make those a surface mount, that would save me some time for sure. So.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess you're right. I could do stuff
Yeah, you could do it if that's what you wanted. If it's mostly with all the are they Cherry MX switches
they
you're
are,
using
that's
for
right.
it? Those are all through hole, right? You can't get an SMT version
Well,
of that.
They have SMT sockets.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So then you
okay,
can
I'm
hot
familiar
plug
with
the
those.
cherry
So yeah,
switches.
I may or
Right.
may not be thinking about a new version of it. So I don't know. No, because you're always making improvements, and I'm sure your machines are the same way.
Sure. I just redid the math. I was off by an order of magnitude. It's a few hundred, but it's like 500 or so chips per hour. I don't want to mislead on how fast this thing is. But yeah, it's way faster than doing it by hand. But it's not like a $10,000, $20,000 machine.
So I'm gonna
I
have to
think
buy
like
3 of them.
you
So,
could.
so the other part of that question was, what kind of placement accuracy can you get on the machine?
So we have that metric defined by the parts that we're able to place. We can get, like, if you actually look at how repeatable is the positioning, it's 10 microns, 20 microns or something. If you're just looking at where it goes, it's all 3D printer hardware. It's pretty good stuff. It's not terrible.
And 10 microns, what does that work out to be? Is that a 10,000th of an inch?
Sorry, no. So we ran some repeatability tests. So I wrote a little Python script that just kind of like barfed canned G code over and over, and it looked at the camera, and it would try and find where the nozzle tip was. So it would move the head around, and it'd check to see how far off has the nozzle moved from the upwards camera. And we had a weird problem with the machine early on, where we had this cyclical thing that was happening because of the umbilical. So we have a big cable that goes over to the head. And there was this cyclical thing happening where you had like plus or minus 100 microns movement, which is like sheet of paper, I think. I don't know off the top of my head how these are, but it's a 1/10 of a millimeter.
Very small.
That is very small.
Very small. And then we got that down to, I think, 50, plus or minus 25, so a range of 50 microns. But the actual practical application of that is we can place 0603, and we've had good luck with 0402s, which are those tiny little dudes. And we placed TQFP 48s, TQFP 100s. So those are like big flat chips with a whole bunch of little legs where the rotational accuracy means a lot because you have like a 0.5 millimeter pitch on all the legs all the way far out. And we placed those okay. So for most designs, if you stick within all my passives are going to be 0603, unless you're doing, like, we haven't tested BGA, but like as long as the spacing isn't too far off, there's no reason it couldn't work. It can do a lot. It can do a pretty darn good job of placing most stuff that you might want to place for a mid-scale.
And the BGA being ball grid array, which means basically there's not just contacts on the outside, there's contacts that you cannot see, and it's putting them on there and then melting it down.
Sure. And like whether or not you can inspect those is a different story. You usually need like an X-ray machine for that, and that's some crazy stuff. But
When are you making the X-ray machine?
That's a good question.
we're working on it. We're working on the X-ray.
Well, switching gears just a little bit, you guys moved out from your garage to an actual, like, what, 3,000 something square foot facility?
Yeah, it's like 3,200, I think, square feet.
That's as big as our makerspace.
Well, we were talking about earlier, it's good, like, just from a privacy standpoint, it's nice to have your own space. It's not actually your house, I guess, but just from a expansion standpoint, I mean, 3,000 square feet, that's a lot more than you need at this point, but you're seeing a vision for this company is expanding dramatically, I assume.
Yeah, and we're also, like, when we moved in, it was like right after, we signed the lease like the day after Thanksgiving, I think. Right after we moved in, we're like, what are we ever going to do with all this space? But now that we're actually like in here and using it, it very quickly feels like it's filling up. Like stuff gets used. We are seeing what people need and people that we need to hire. And it's unbelievable how fast we fill up the space.
Any space that you have will be taken up by something if you have the space. It's just, there's a law, somebody's law. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, work is like a gas. Yeah, it fills the volume that it's in. And, as we can probably use this for a good chunk of time. Like, it's a great space. We're still not using all of it. We're looking, like, we have a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, and we're looking at all the things we want to do and we want to ship. But it'll be good for us for a hot sec for sure. Like it's definitely doing what we need it to do, and we'll be able to expand into some other product lines with it. Absolutely. So yeah, but it is wild how quickly it's like, whoa, we're really using some of this. It's kind of wild.
Well, I'm impressed that you're moving up to having employees. That's a game changer. That's a milestone in owning a business. Everything changes once you own. You don't own employees.
Yeah,
So,
it's wild. Like sometimes it's really crazy. Like sometimes I'll just be like, I'll come into the office and I'll be sitting at my desk and I'll be like, I'm at the office for my own company. Like, why does this feel normal? And I have to take a second and be like, oh man, like, wow. It's kind of wild. And that same thing with like hiring, like Lucian coming on a while ago now, and now we're looking to get other people and growing now that we have sales and revenue and people are buying these kits.
Yep. I don't want to imply that Lucian is not a real employee, but he's your best friend, so it's different when you move into advertising for an open position, hiring somebody, doing payroll, taxes.
It's like maybe like
it's
Lucian's just like this fake person that he's made up to like. I mean, he's on the he's on the video, so I guess he's maybe he's just like an actor that he brings in for like,
He's a paid actor.
Yeah.
No, he's
that would be an employee. That would be a real employee.
You're right. So,
that'd be a contractor.
Yeah.
He has. I mean, we haven't taken a salary yet, so we've just been going without. And Patreon, my patrons are absolute gems. Like that is the reason that Lucian and I both live in my house, and like I bought a really cheap house in Pittsburgh that was big enough that I could start the company out of it, and I make just enough money on Patreon to sustain us in the house, so we don't need to pull money out of the company, and it's fantastic. Like I'm so grateful for my patrons that let me stay afloat this whole time, and just now we're starting to think about, okay, we have revenue. Lucian? I can pay him, like finally,
Yep.
and he's. Yeah, so now, I mean, he was legally an employee, but we just couldn't really pay him very much because, we didn't have the money for it. And now we finally can, so it's great.
Steven, I grew up in a dying coal mining town in Pennsylvania.
Oh, really? What town did you grow up in?
I grew up in Scranton.
Oh, no way, really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's like 4 or 5 hours from me.
Yeah. I've never been to Pittsburgh. I've been past Pittsburgh, north of Pittsburgh lots of times.
Okay, if you're ever in town, hit me up.
Absolutely.
Let me know. Yeah, it's
home.
Great. I love Pittsburgh. It's so inexpensive to live here. There's CMU, there's Pitt, it's beautiful. Like, a lot of people have an understanding of Pittsburgh of like, oh, it's a rundown steel city, but like, it's gotten more stuff. It's like a robotics city now. Like CMU and all the stuff that comes out of CMU is like, it is a robotics heavy hardware city. It's so great. The cost of living is low. It's fantastic.
I didn't mean to imply that Pittsburgh was dying. I didn't.
No, I know. No. I didn't get that at all.
Scranton has been dying my whole life. It's been. I mean, I have a friend who was excited. I told him every time they do a census, we lose 9% of the population. He said, no, this time we didn't. He said, this decade we grew. I said, well, how much did we grow? He said, 0.3%. So.
Hey, it's still growth.
Yeah, it's still growth. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I live in Florida, which is constantly expanding, which is good, I guess. But then it's like, somewhere like Pittsburgh, I could get like an office for probably not like an exorbitant amount. I could probably buy a house for not exorbitant amount. It's like,
yeah.
To me that seems kind of cool. Like maybe there's like some space that you could set up, which I guess is what you did. I mean, you have set up there, so I don't know. I think there's some benefits to a place that's not like maybe like that popular yet. I don't know. Or
sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like if rent is still low, and like my house, I bought it in 2020 before the housing boom hit, and it's well under 100K. Well under.
Oh,
and
nice.
Like it has 3 floors, and like you only get that in Pittsburgh. You can only find a place that cheap in good shape with that much space in a city like this where it's on the rise. It's coming up, and it has just been nothing but good for us, and getting in early.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I don't want to
cool.
tell you what Zillow says our house is worth today. It's terrifying.
Yeah, Zillow, like right now, anyone buying a house right now, my heart goes out to them. Like I had a friend who bought one in Colorado a little bit ago, and like I was blown away at how expensive it was. Like it's wild.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild stuff.
Yeah, we bought our house maybe 5 years ago, and we thought it was fairly, it was a bit high to our budget, but it's like what they say it's worth now is like, I'm not comfortable with that, to be honest, because it's like, okay, okay, nominally our family, is worth more money, but I got to live somewhere, so what difference does it make to me?
Sure. And if you want to sell it and buy another house, all the houses are very expensive right now. So like, it's not like you're up from it because everything else is expensive that you'd want to buy.
Unless you move to Pittsburgh.
And like, oh.
Yeah, that's true. Unless you move to Pittsburgh, or it's
or
still
Scranton,
very
where it's even
inexpensive.
cheaper.
True.
Yeah. So that's an idea. So. Well, that sounds awesome about your business, but I guess another thing we were kind of wondering about is, and this is from a while ago, you made a wrist-mounted flamethrower.
Is that to keep warm in the Pittsburgh winter?
It's for melting all the snow off my driveway.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I won't ever need one then, I guess, but good for you. Yeah. So yeah, you took this to Maker Faire, and I guess you were, the fire marshal hassled you a bit, but you were nice to him.
Yeah. And, he was doing his job, and for some punk coming in with a wacky contraption that he made in his basement, like, I want to shoot fire at Maker Faire. And, like, I think their names were Bob and Rob, were the ones that came this was the second time. So every time I brought a flamethrower to Maker Faire, I had to talk to the fire marshals.
Bob and I feel like this is like a cartoon, not like a real thing that.
Right. Yeah, no, they were real.
Or it's like the two Bobs from Office Space.
Yeah, right. The first time they were a much more like, what's this kid doing? And it was a much more sketchy thing that I had built. Like I had very little safety precaution stuff baked into it, and early on when I've been playing with like flamethrower stuff since I was like in middle school or something, and I burned myself like once or twice early on, and I haven't since. Like, I learned my lesson about handling this stuff carefully and safely, and it hasn't been a problem since then. So although it is shooting fire from my hand, I try and take as many precautions as I can to be safe about it, but it's still inherently wild. Like, you're still shooting propane, like, out of your palm. But yeah, so I showed the fire marshals everything. They took a peek over it. They were like, okay, we'll keep an eye on you. And, they were kind of always there when we were shooting the fire, but so much fun. My favorite is bringing it to parties and roasting marshmallows with it, where I'll light it up and then people can have their marshmallows on a stick, and like that's a fun time for sure.
That's really fantastic.
Yeah. Well, what was your closest call with it? Was there? Or maybe you don't want to say it. That's fine too.
Yeah. No. One of the things I learned early was that when you have a tank of propane or butane and you're dumping gas out of it, it will get cold. And especially when you have the tank upside down and the valve is submersed in liquid propane or butane, you get liquid gas out of the nozzle because that's what's readily available at the inside of the tank. And that does not come out in a gas that wants to move away from your hand. That comes out in a droplet that wants to land on your hand. So early on, the time that I got burned early was when this was middle school, 6th grade, 7th grade or something. I was running it too far and I put my arm up so the tank was facing downwards, and I got a whole bunch of liquid, I think it was liquid butane on my hand. And it went out pretty quickly. It's not like my hand was literally on fire. It was just the butane on my hand that was on fire. But it burned me. I mean, I was like, oh, wow, okay, I've learned my lesson here.
I bet that was terrifying.
Keeping that in mind, it was really spooky. Yeah, and actually, it was in the winter, and there was a bunch of snow, so I just went bump into the snow and solved the problem. But, learned a ton from that. I mean, from doing an inherently risky thing. Figured that out, and now I know how to push it. I actually ran a lot of tests of like seeing at what point and how long does it take before the droplets come out and it becomes an issue, and it hasn't happened since. I'm just aware of that, and I have a whole bunch of e-stops and safety procedures, and it works just fine. One version I actually had a key, and it would only turn on when my key ignition was inserted. So I had keys on my key ring, so if someone walked up to it, they couldn't get it to turn on unless my key was there to turn it on.
That's
so
smart.
stuff like that. Yeah, it's way safer now, as safe as it can be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and you, let's see. I'm trying to think. Do you have any other questions, Pat?
Well, I do. I saw those RC radios in the background of a few of your videos, and I'm curious what sort of machines you fly.
So
Radio controlled machines.
Right. So there are not any clean cut just drones. One of those controllers is from a project I did at Deep Local where we controlled like a 5-foot tall Rosie the Riveter android. It looks like the android dude, but dressed up as Rosie the Riveter. So one of those is from controlling that thing around like conference centers and stuff, which is a super fun project. And then another one was from my mom got married like 5 years ago or something. And she didn't want to have a ring bearer. She wanted me to have the drone be the ring bearer. So I got an off-the-shelf drone kit or something, and I put Clean Flight, I think is the firmware you can flash onto them. So I configured an auxiliary pin on it to be a servo, and I printed a little servo mount in the bottom, and I set up, before the ceremony, I set the drone up behind, and I put the rings in a little bag that had the servo clasped in it. So when it was time for the rings, I was standing up there as part of the wedding party, and I flew my drone. I had my little transmitter on the back of my belt, and I pulled it around, and I flew the drone, and I had it drop the rings into the GP, or what do they call the folks who officiate the wedding? I'm not sure what the word is. Yes, the person who was doing the ceremony dropped the rings and then the drone flight off.
Justice of the peace is what you're looking for.
Justice of the peace. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. So I had the drone go and drop the rings and then fly away, and yeah, that was a fun one.
That's
so
fantastic.
Weird stuff like that.
We've done the servo release mechanism on a drone before to drop some big. You're not.
What'd you drop?
Well, I shouldn't tell you because it's illegal, but I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Is it illegal to drop stuff from a drone?
Yes.
Have I just incriminated myself?
Maybe. Well, you were indoors, and it was fine.
I was not indoors.
Well, I was telling everybody that you were, and
Oh, I see. You were giving me an out here. All right.
yeah. But we were dropping water bottles on the pavement, from 100 feet, 200 feet up. And then this is the worst part. We're looking around the park, and my friend finds a stick, about 8 feet long, with a spike on the end. I mean, this is some kind of a temporary fence post. So we string it up on it. We take it up. We drop it. I mean, and it pierces the grass and just sticks up straight. It was absolutely terrifying. You shouldn't be doing this.
It's like lawn darts, but with a drone.
But with a way bigger lawn dart. Oh, don't do it.
Yeah,
but we have a video on YouTube if you want to see it. We didn't get the one where it was standing straight up. It was a little. Of course, we couldn't repeat that. It never stuck as well.
Yeah. Wow.
It's interesting that people ever thought lawn darts were a good idea. That just seems
a little terrifying.
Yeah. Have you ever played with lawn darts, Jeremy?
I never have. I have.
I've thrown some when I was smaller. Yeah.
I've never used
at anyone. You make sure I'm sure we didn't practice safety when I was that small. We didn't understand.
Yeah, that's some spooky stuff.
No, I never played with him. I think maybe my parents kept me away from him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know when they went off the market. I mean, who knows when I found them at somebody's house, right? They could have been in the closet for 10 years for all.
Yeah, I've never even seen them. I've only ever heard of them as a thing.
They're heavy. I mean, I was small, so everything was heavy, but they were heavy. It was
sure.
Nice.
Spooky.
How fun. And let's see. I guess we got one more question. We got a couple more questions, but one more I want to ask you. I saw something. So you eat something called Soylent. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It is correct. Yeah.
Okay. And that's after the human-made compound in that book, right?
Sure, Soylent Green. Yeah. It's a drink that is. They say it is 100% nutritionally complete, so you can drink 5 of these bottles a day, and it has everything you need to be a functional human being, as per what the FDA says. I don't drink that much of it anymore. I still do drink it. There's one in the other room that I might drink later today, but I don't drink as much as I used to. But it is a very utilitarian food. Like when I worked at Formlabs, I didn't have a kitchen in my apartment. My apartment was like kind of an attic. It was like a weird retrofitted attic with no kitchen. It was a wacky place, but it was great. I missed that apartment every day, but I didn't have a kitchen, so I kind of had to rely on Soylent to that was what I drank. That was my nutrition.
Well, this is what happens when you work 110 hours a week.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
it's not good.
It's kind of out of necessity.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Does it taste good, or is it nasty, or is it?
It depends on your definition of good. To be fair, they've done a lot for the taste recently. It's pretty excellent. It's a fantastic thing where it's like, in a pinch, you need lunch, you don't feel like making something, you grab one of these things, and it's pretty great. It's a good product that I really do enjoy. I actually tried melting down the bottles because I was making a lot of these bottles and it felt like such a waste I know you could send them to a recycling center, and I did that as much as I could, but I've tried to melt them down and turn them into 3D printer filament. So I actually made filament out of recycled Soylent bottles, and I got some horrible 3D prints out of it. Like absolute trash, really bad, because it was out of a material that has a very high coefficient of thermal expansion. Is it
PET?
It's HDPE plus.
Oh, that's
is
harder.
What it's made of.
That's harder.
It's like double the coefficient of thermal expansion of ABS. So whatever problems ABS has versus PLA, double that, and it's a nightmare. But I could print with it. I got a benchy out of it. It was very bad, but I got a benchy out of it.
I saw a fantastic video the last couple of weeks where somebody was testing. There's an open source gizmo that cuts down PET bottles into strips, folds the strips over, and just gently melts it. Doesn't melt it, just softens it and pushes it through a nozzle, and you get a filament out of it. And that looked really cool.
Yeah, was that on Hackaday?
I bet it was.
I think I
would
saw
be
this
amazed
somewhere.
if it wasn't.
Okay. There was another dude who made, he took old VHS tape, like the magnetic tape, and he melted it down, and he made filament with like a VHS, and it was wild. And as it printed, it was aerated a little too much. It wasn't very solid, so it kind of popped a little as it printed, and it had this really lovely, like matte, rough texture on the outside. It was really cool.
Neat.
Yeah, really funky.
I'm gonna look for that. I want to see this.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was surprised that his method worked for turning film into filament. Watching it, I was like, I am surprised and impressed that works the way that it does.
Yeah, and I realized I have absolutely no idea what plastic the tape is made out of.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't remember.
I only know about
I'm
the,
sure it says
the rest on the the coating, the oxide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really cool stuff.
Well,
I guess.
Oh, go ahead, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking like it's kind of an off this subject and on the other subject. The 3D printed parts for your machine, can they be made out of ABS or PLA or anything? Is there any specific material you need for that?
We have recommended materials. There's very few constraints that we have. So of the constraints, we have recommended print settings for strength. We use PLA internally, but a lot of folks in the community have used PETG and have had excellent results with it. So both of those, we officially recommend PLA because that's what we've tested with, but we're doing some PETG testing in-house right now.
Okay. And what about VHS tapes? You think?
If someone made one out of VHS tapes, I would lose my mind. That would be so cool. We want to get some Fuse, like the Formlabs Fuse printer, the SLS nylon powder one. We want to get some of those parts printed on a Fuse and have a LumenPNP made out of SLS. We think that would be super cool.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
I'm jealous of those
We'll
SLS printers. I would love to have one of those at home. But that the powder seems so messy and scary. Not scary, but I would make a mess.
You need a dedicated room for it. It very much is a thing. Like the sift is like this archaeological dig through your print, and it's really cool and very satisfying. We were really just getting ready to start shipping them by the time I left Formlabs, so I got to play with them a bunch. They're fun. The parts are really cool. Like the process is just fascinating. But yeah, you need dedicated space. Like it really is for like industrial kind of applications or like, or mid-scale. If you have a room in an office that you can dedicate to it with, shop vac and the sift, it's a pretty good solution to be able to make custom parts really quick. But yeah, it's a bit of a commitment for sure.
So my question for you, Stephen, because I usually ask people before we even invite them on the show, do you have anything you'd like to tell us about that? Your YouTube channel is full of pick and place stuff. It's all, for like 3 years back, it's all pick and place. Do you have anything non-pick and place in your going on and that you want to tell? I mean, I know you're busy with starting the company, so you may not have anything, but I figured I'd give you an opportunity to tell us about something totally out of...
that I'm working on that isn't that?
Yeah, or not even working, just excited about anything, whatever makes you happy.
A lot of my time...
Where'd you buy your glasses?
What was that?
I said, where'd you buy your glasses? You can anything.
Jeremy, I got bifocals this time, Jeremy. For three different ranges. These are my up close. They have no long vision. They're medium and close, and my other ones over there are long and medium.
They have different like optics at different heights, kind of thing.
They do, but they're the long range ones. You have to look out the very bottom to read your phone. And these ones out the very top, I can't drive. It's not, I can't see far enough away. But these are perfect at my desk. I could see my screens again. I could read all the words. It's all sharp and crystal clear. And I didn't mean to derail this question, but when you think you need bifocals, Stephen, get some. And
Pull the trigger on it, okay.
Yeah.
But seriously though, is there anything more interesting that you'd like to tell us about?
Sure. Yeah. Most of my time is dedicated towards this and getting this out the door. I have a list of probably 60 YouTube video ideas that are not related to the pick and place that just accrue. But what I've been spending a lot of time on is working on a couple projects with my girlfriend. She's like an immersive space designer. So we've been going through and we're turning a room in my house into a cyberpunk speakeasy. So we're making the door to this speakeasy like a bar kind of thing, but we want it all to be like super cyberpunk neon lighting. I got a server rack at a really cool architectural salvage yard here in Pittsburgh for like $20. So we're designing circuit boards that go into it that aren't like, Pat, kind of like the thing you're making for the hard drive bay.
Yeah.
Like it's a fake digital bay, but we're making, it looks like it's like an Ethernet switch. And we're making like a little robotic bartender that goes in there and all that kind of stuff. So she's a set designer and a space designer, and exactly. Like it's gonna be like a little torso coming out of the bar, and he'll like make our favorite drinks kind of thing.
Johnny Cab, but for a bar.
Sure. Yeah. So we've been working on that, and I'll show her some animatronic stuff. She shows me some space design considerations, and we work together on that. And we're also making kind of like a digital fortune telling table. So it looks just like a normal wooden table, and we have a deck of tarot cards that have RFID tags in them. So underneath the top layer of the table, it's actually just veneer. It's wooden veneer on top of like acrylic and other CNC plywood. There's a little RFID reader in the center. So you place the tarot card down in the center, and the reader knows what card you put down. And then there's embedded LEDs underneath the veneer of the wood that will like play an animation based on what card you put down. And she's actually a pixel artist full-time. Her full-time job is being a pixel artist. So she's doing like animations for it and stuff. So we're creating cool like digital environment things. We spend time doing it every week working on some of those projects. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff with her. It's been cool working with someone that like is minded about, has the idea of what does the whole entirety of the space feel like. I'm very like, I want to make the gizmo. I want to make the gadget. I want to design the thing, but she's looking holistically at the whole space. So it's been so much fun working with her on it. So a couple of things like that we've been working on.
So cool. Don't tell the table that you want to be big. I don't know if you know the reference, but...
I don't. Wait, from Big, the Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, the Tom Hanks movie. He tells the fortune teller thing, I want to be big, and then he's an adult the next day. And
yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't.
Yeah, don't tell it that. But can we expect a video on that at some point, or are you going to keep that in-house?
That's a great question, because like I started this YouTube channel ultimately because I knew I wanted to do a hardware company. So I was kind of doing prototypes until I found the thing was like, this is the thing I want to bring into the world, and then put it towards more about it being about the company. I've thought a lot about doing a second channel for this kind of stuff. Once I can hire people where I don't have to work crazy hours to fulfill the things I need to for Opulo right now and the YouTube channel, maybe I dive back in, I do another one. Jaden also has been thinking about starting something like that, so we might do it on one of her platforms. But we'll see. We definitely are like documenting and recording it, so I'm sure it will come out on the internet in some form or another for sure.
Making YouTube videos is so much work, Steven, and you're doing a fantastic job. You've got all kinds of good edits in there with the little, you know, the sneaky dropping things that get picked up instead of the reverses. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh, that was a lot of work.
Thanks. The longest was one time I did like a drop kick flying like karate kick at an op amp chip, and that it was like maybe 7 seconds of footage, and it took me like 3.5 hours to edit it. And like I wasn't even it was pretty good at the end, but like there was room for improvement. Like I wanted to make it better. So yeah, it's fun though. It's a blast, and I've gotten it so that my keyboard shortcuts, I use Final Cut Pro. And I love it. I love using Final Cut Pro. But I have my WASD keys, like you would if you're playing a video game. I have those set up as shortcuts for like trimming and cutting and like splicing. So I have a very speedy workflow down for like how do I get through 2.5 hours of footage really fast and cut it down to just what I know. Like if I'm shooting a talking head bit, this is my favorite little trick. If I'm shooting a talking head bit where I'm just talking to the camera and it takes me like 5 or 6 takes to get the bit that I want to say. When I'm done, I clap and I look on the audio waveform for a spike, and I know that the last one, the one by the spike, is the one that I should use. So the little tricks like that help a lot for speeding it up.
Do you peruse hacker news on ycombinator.com?
Here and there. I haven't recently, but I'll poke around on it every once in a while.
There was a fantastic Ask Hacker News question, and I don't even remember what the question was specifically, but it had to do with video editing like this, and 3 or 4 people posted the scripts that they use that automatically edit out the dead air. And I thought, oh, I need this.
That would be helpful.
I mean, maybe not all the dead air, but they've got one that somebody had one that makes an XML file cut list that you can import into most anything. I'm like, oh, I should just run the just get rid of. Can you imagine just getting rid of all of that stuff before you even touch it?
There's a guy on Linus Tech Tips who is like their lead editor. He's been there for forever, and he has like 5 keyboards all set up at his computer station, and each one he has a custom sticker, and he has each key set to a hilariously precise keyboard shortcut that he uses all auto hotkey to like map all these things, and it's like it is the most complicated setup ever, but it's very interesting to watch. He has like a 4-hour tutorial of like this is how I do video editing. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and if you do the same things over and over again, like I've not tried any of these clipper things because we have 3 video files I'm looking at right here, and then 3 wave files and maybe more. And I've got to combine all of those and then cut it, but then I have to be able to flip. I don't know how I would. I don't know how to. So I say, we're just gonna do this manually. I don't know how to work that back into. Into
the software. Do you use Premiere?
I use DaVinci Resolve.
Oh, okay, cool. Rock and roll. Yeah.
I use Final Cut Pro. It took a little bit of learning to get used to it, but I really love it. And to be honest, I use that the macro pad that I put on that Kickstarter. Man, that's been pretty fantastic because you can once I got it figured out, you can use these. You can use the 3 keys on the bottom. You can basically these are like the shuttle keys. So I just keep these there, and then I set the knob up so that you can advance frame by frame with the knob.
Oh, that's
and
a
then
killer
I can
feature.
Like clip it
Just
and stuff. It is
just to bring it back that one, so you don't miss the beginning of the
like
word.
1 or 2 with a click, click, click. Or if it's like a lot, like more, you can click, 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 click.
Yeah.
It's like, I just feel like, and obviously there's better ways to do it, but compared to like how I was doing it before, I just feel like I'm just like a ninja. Just slicing it up. It's great. Yeah. I feel like I don't edit videos more as it's like I debone them like I'm cleaning a fish or something.
That's a really interesting way to say that. It's like you know how people like sculptors will say I have a chunk of marble and there's a sculpture in there somewhere. Like you start with the entirety of the video. You're just removing sections that you don't want, you know, instead of adding in new things. You're looking at all the extra footage and trimming away the fat.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, listen, my camera is giving me some sort of interesting icon. So I I wonder, which might be a good place to kind of probably a good place to end this podcast.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
right,
we
Pat?
should
Is
ask Steven where we can find him on the internet.
Yeah, where can we find you, Steven?
You can find me on YouTube. If you search my name, Steven Hawes, I'll come up on YouTube. And my company, Opulo, you can find us at opulo.io, and you can find all the source for the whole pick and place project. It's all open source. You can go look through all that, build one yourself, buy one from the site, whatever you want. So YouTube and opulo.io is probably the best places.
And Opulo is like it's the 5 letters I would expect. OPULO.io.
There we go.
Ooh, shirts.
Spicy new merch.
Opulo.
OPULO. Yep.
You know, it's the most opulent pick and place that you can, the most opulent open source pick and place that you can buy, right?
Right.
And operational as well.
Operational population, opulent.
Yeah, Opulo, very nice. And Pat, we can find you, I guess, Pat's,
Yeah, you can find me at
right?
patshead.com. And I've got a plug. We've been doing, me and my friend Brian have been doing a live stream every Tuesday night on the Butter What YouTube channel. And we have to do one tonight. It's we do it the first Tuesday of every month, and we're doing it today,
Cool.
which confused me because I have to do 2 of these today now. That throws me off. And what about you, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on the internet. If you look up Jeremy S. Cook on YouTube or pretty much anywhere, you can pretty much find me. JC Devices. I sell stuff under JC Devices at Tindy, including my JC Pro Macro now that it's out of Kickstarter and stuff. So you can check stuff out there. Just at Tindy and stuff. And Pat, I know you're on
I'm
Tindy
also
too.
on Tindy.
Cool.
Yeah, but yeah, that's where you can find me, and you can find me on the Create/Invent podcast, of course.
And we'll put all this in the description of wherever, hopefully everywhere you can find this. But we hope. We do our best. You never know where a podcast is going to land.
We don't know exactly where you find us. But yes, Steven, thank you so much for coming on today. We really enjoyed meeting you, and seems like a fantastic product.
Thanks. I really appreciate you having me. It was a blast chatting with you guys.
It really does seem awesome. I'm excited. I might have to buy one. I don't know if my wife will let me, but I'm tempted.
Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Have a good one,
see you later.
everybody.
See you guys.
I have to look around the camera to find the stop button.